"You'll regret helping me," he whispered, his voice deep and unsettling. Emma stared at him, the words hanging in the air like a warning. She had no idea what she was getting herself into. When she first met Victor Blackwood, he seemed like any other man. Charming, well-dressed, and with a dark, mysterious air about him. But that night, when he was being hunted, Emma had acted on instinct, pulling him into her car and helping him escape. She never imagined it would change her life forever. Over the next few days, Victor began showing up everywhere she went. At her favorite cafe, outside her office building, in the park as she walked home. Each time, he was a little closer, his presence undeniable, as if drawn to her in some inexplicable way. Emma tried to brush it off. After all, he was just a man, right? But there was something about him, something different. His eyes, dark and unreadable, held a strange power, like they could see straight through her, and Emma began to wonder if there was more to him than she thought. Then one night, he confronted her. "You helped me escape, Emma," he said, his tone oddly possessive. "Now, you belong to me." She froze. His words seemed like a strange mix of promise and threat. He wasn't just talking about gratitude. His presence had an effect on her, a pull she couldn't explain. Her heart beat faster, and she realized she wasn't just trapped in a situation. She was trapped in his gaze, in his world. It was impossible to ignore him, and now, she wasn't sure if she wanted to. Something was happening between them, something that wasn't just about saving a stranger. But what did it mean? Was she really safe? Or had she just stepped into something far darker than she ever imagined? Emma's thoughts raced as Victor took a step closer, his smile growing. She wanted to push him away, to tell him to leave her alone, but she didn't. Instead, she stayed frozen, feeling the weight of his gaze on her. Was she already too far gone? Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It had been a week since she helped Victor Blackwood escape, but he never left her thoughts. His dark eyes seemed to haunt her, and every time he appeared, her heart would race. She tried to ignore it, tried to keep her distance, but every encounter with him pulled her in further. One morning, she walked into the cafe where she usually had her coffee, only to find Victor sitting at a corner table, his gaze already on her. She froze, feeling a sudden wave of nervous energy rush over her. His smile was faint but knowing, like he had been waiting for her. "Emma," he greeted her softly, his voice smooth and comforting. "You're looking lovely today." She felt a strange warmth spread through her, despite herself. "Victor, what are you doing here?" she asked, trying to hide the unease in her voice. "I'm here for you," he said simply, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Emma shifted uncomfortably, but couldn't move. There was something in the air, an invisible pull that kept her standing there. "You've helped me more than you realize," Victor continued, his voice lowering slightly. "And now I'm not leaving. You're mine, Emma, whether you like it or not." His words sent a shiver down her spine. Was he threatening her? Or was this just how he talked? She couldn't tell. The longer she stood there, the harder it became to breathe normally. She wanted to run, but something kept her rooted to the spot. His gaze was intense, and she could feel the weight of his stare on her skin, burning into her like fire. She didn't know what was happening to her, but she didn't want to let it continue. "Victor, I need space," Emma said, her voice trembling slightly as she took a step back. He didn't respond at first. Instead, he simply watched her, his eyes softening. "Space?" he asked, a slight chuckle escaping his lips. "You can't hide from me, Emma. Not anymore." His voice was almost too calm, too confident. Emma swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words sink in. Was he right? Had she already given herself to him in ways she couldn't take back? She wasn't sure, but she couldn't deny that her heart was telling her something different than her mind. Something deeper, something darker. She glanced at him once more, her breath caught in her throat, and for a brief moment, she wondered if she could ever truly escape. But there was no turning back now. The thought of walking away felt impossible. She was already in too deep. Emma couldn't sleep that night. Her mind kept racing, spinning with everything Victor had said. "You're mine, Emma, whether you like it or not." His words echoed in her head. It had only been a few days since that first encounter, but it felt like a lifetime. She had never been so confused. She wanted to push him away, but each time she tried, something pulled her right back. There was an undeniable force between them, something that couldn't be ignored. She couldn't explain it, but it was there, growing stronger every day. The next morning, Victor was waiting for her again. This time, at her apartment door. She opened the door to find him standing there, looking calm as ever, his dark eyes locking with hers. "I told you I wasn't leaving," he said softly, a slight smile curling at the corners of his lips. "Victor, you can't keep doing this," Emma said, trying to sound firm, though her voice trembled. "I don't want you here. I don't want any part of this." He stepped forward, his presence overwhelming. "I've told you before, Emma. You belong to me now. And deep down, you know it. You don't want me to leave, do you?" His voice was low, almost hypnotic. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, but she couldn't deny the truth in his words. She didn't want him to leave. She wanted him to stay, even though she knew it was dangerous. "I can't live like this, Victor," she whispered, stepping back, away from him. He didn't follow. Instead, he watched her with an unreadable expression. "I never said you had to live, Emma," he said, his tone softening. "I said you'd be mine, and that's not something you can escape." Emma shook her head, trying to clear the fog in her mind. "I don't understand," she said, her voice breaking. "What do you want from me?" Victor smiled gently, almost as if he pitied her. "I want you to accept what's already happening. You're part of my world now, Emma. You're already connected to me, and I will never let you go." She stared at him, unsure of what to feel. Fear, yes, but also a deep, strange longing. Something she couldn't name. She was falling, and she knew it. The question was, would she ever be able to climb back out? Emma spent the next few days in a haze, unsure of what to do or where to turn. Every time she tried to push Victor away, his presence became more overwhelming. She had never felt so trapped in her life. It wasn't just his words that haunted her. It was the feeling of being bound to him, of being unable to break free. He seemed to appear out of nowhere, always knowing where she was, always finding her. No matter how far she ran, he was there. She tried to convince herself that she could still walk away, that she could regain control of her life. But every time she looked into Victor's eyes, all her resolve crumbled. He wasn't just any man. He was a vampire, and she had already given him something she couldn't take back. One evening, Emma stood by her window, staring out at the darkened city below. She thought she heard a sound behind her, but when she turned, no one was there. For a brief moment, she thought maybe she was just imagining things. Then she felt it, Victor's presence. She didn't even need to turn around to know he was there. "You're thinking about running away again, aren't you?" His voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it sent a chill down her spine. She didn't answer him. What could she say? "You can't hide from me, Emma," he continued, stepping closer. "You already belong to me, whether you accept it or not." His voice was so calm, so certain, that Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but the truth was, she couldn't deny him. "Why me, Victor?" she asked quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you want me?" Victor paused, as if considering her question. "Because you're mine," he said simply. "You've always been mine, even before you knew it. And now, you can't escape." Emma closed her eyes, trying to block out his words, but they lingered in her mind. Was it really true? Was she already too deep, too entangled in his world to ever break free? She didn't know, but she couldn't deny the pull he had on her, the way he made her feel alive in ways she didn't understand. She was scared, but she was also drawn to him in a way that terrified her even more. She opened her eyes and faced him. "What do you want from me, Victor?" she asked, her voice steady now. "What do I have to do to make this stop?" Victor smiled, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. "It's already too late for that, Emma." Emma felt her heart racing as Victor's words echoed in her mind. "It's already too late for that, Emma." She wanted to scream, to argue, to fight him off, but something about his presence left her frozen. His calm demeanor, his unshakable confidence, made her feel like there was no escape. She tried to step back, but her feet felt like they were glued to the floor. She wanted to tell him to leave, but the words wouldn't come. Victor stood there, watching her with an intensity that made her feel like he was seeing right through her. "I never wanted this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You never had a choice," he replied, his voice low and steady. "The moment you helped me, you chose. You chose to be a part of this." He took a step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "You're mine, Emma. You've always been mine." She shook her head, feeling a tear slip down her cheek. She had never felt so powerless in her life. "No, Victor," she said, her voice trembling. I don't belong to you. I don't belong in your world. His expression softened, and for a moment, Emma thought she saw something like regret in his eyes. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by the familiar coldness. You think you can walk away? He asked, his voice filled with an emotion she couldn't quite place. You think you can just leave and forget everything? Forget me. Emma wanted to run, but her body wouldn't move. She was trapped by him, trapped by her own feelings, trapped in a world she didn't understand. I'm not the man you think I am, Victor said, his voice almost gentle now. But you'll come to understand that, in time. Emma wiped the tears from her eyes, her breath shallow. She had no idea what he meant by that, but she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't keep pretending that she could walk away from him. No matter how hard she tried, Victor had become a part of her life. And now, there was no turning back. Emma stood there, the weight of Victor's words pressing down on her like a heavy fog. The air in the room felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the world had narrowed to just the two of them. She had tried so hard to deny it, but now, in this moment, she could no longer escape the truth. Victor had become a part of her life in ways she never expected. There was no running anymore. She wasn't sure when it had happened, but somewhere between the stolen glances and the quiet moments they shared, he had found his place in her heart. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him that this wasn't fair, that she had no part in this twisted reality he was dragging her into. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something that stopped her, something that almost made her believe that maybe, just maybe, she had a place in his world after all. I don't know what you want from me, Victor, Emma whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. I can't be what you want me to be. Victor stepped forward, his presence overwhelming, his gaze unwavering. You don't need to be anything, Emma. You already are. You're already mine. The certainty in his voice sent a chill through her, but there was something else there too, a tenderness, an emotion she hadn't expected. She wanted to push him away, to walk out of the room and never look back, but she couldn't. She couldn't tear herself away from him, not anymore. You've already made your choice, Victor continued, his voice softer now. You chose to help me, and that choice will follow you, no matter where you go. Emma's heart twisted in her chest as she looked at him. How had she gotten here? How had she become so intertwined with someone like him? Someone who was so far removed from the life she knew. I didn't choose this, Emma said, her voice shaking. I didn't choose you. But even as she said the words, she knew they weren't true. She had chosen him. And now, there was no going back. She was already a part of his world, whether she liked it or not. Victor reached out, his fingers brushing gently against her cheek, and for a moment, she allowed herself to close her eyes, feeling the warmth of his touch. Maybe she hadn't chosen this, but somehow, she had already chosen him. And that was a truth she couldn't escape. The next few days passed in a blur, each moment blending into the next. Emma couldn't remember the last time she felt in control of her own life. Everywhere she went, Victor was there, watching her, his presence undeniable, almost suffocating. She couldn't escape him, not physically, not emotionally. It was like he had woven himself into the very fabric of her existence. She tried to tell herself it was just the pull of something new, something dangerous, but deep down, she knew it was more than that. She was falling for him, and that terrified her. Every time she tried to resist, every time she tried to walk away, it felt like she was being drawn back in, pulled under by a force she couldn't fight. She couldn't even deny the way her heart fluttered when she saw him, the way her thoughts wandered to him when she was alone. He had a hold on her, a grip that she didn't know how to break free from. One evening, after another quiet, tense day at work, Emma found herself back in her apartment, staring out the window at the city below. She had hoped that some space, some time alone, would give her clarity, but all she could think about was Victor. The door to her apartment creaked open, and she turned around. There he was. You're thinking about me again, Victor said, his voice smooth, almost teasing. You can't stop, can you? Emma's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to tell him to leave, to finally push him out of her life, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she found herself standing there, rooted to the spot, unable to move. Victor stepped closer, his presence filling the room. I've told you before, he said softly. You belong to me now, and there's no escaping that. Emma closed her eyes, trying to push the overwhelming emotions away, but they flooded her all the same. I don't belong to you, she whispered, though the conviction in her voice was faltering. You do, he replied, his tone so certain it made her heart ache. You always have, even before you knew it. She shook her head, trying to clear the confusion swirling in her mind. She had never felt so torn, so unsure of herself. Victor, she whispered, why me? Why now? Victor's eyes softened, and he reached out, gently cupping her face in his hand. Because I need you, Emma, he said quietly. And whether you realize it or not, you need me too. His thumb brushed against her skin, and she couldn't help the shiver that ran down her spine. She wanted to pull away, but she couldn't. His touch was like a silent promise, a bond she didn't know how to break. Maybe she never would. Emma stood there, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. Victor's words lingered in the air, heavier than any weight she'd ever felt. You need me, Emma, he had said, his voice soft but certain. She didn't know how to process it, how to accept it. She didn't know how to feel about the fact that part of her wanted to believe him. But the other part of her, the rational part, screamed for her to run, to get away before she became even more tangled in this web. She had tried to tell herself that it was just the allure of something forbidden, something dangerous. But as she stood in the room with him, she couldn't deny the pull. She couldn't deny that he had become a part of her life in a way that was undeniable. Every time she saw him, every time he spoke to her, it felt like the world around her stopped. It was as if he was the only thing that mattered. Her heart ached with the realization that she had already allowed him too close, already allowed him to slip under her skin. She didn't want to admit it, but she had already given him a piece of her, a piece she wasn't sure she could take back. Victor, she said, her voice shaky, why are you doing this? Why me? He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his eyes never leaving hers. Because you were never meant to be anyone else's, Emma, he said quietly. You were always meant to be mine, and I knew it the moment I saw you. His words were like a spell, wrapping around her heart, making it impossible to breathe. She wanted to push him away, wanted to tell him to stop, but she couldn't. She couldn't deny the truth that was staring her in the face. You don't understand, she whispered, shaking her head. I can't be a part of this world. I don't belong with you. Victor's expression softened for a moment, and Emma thought she saw something in his eyes, something like regret, or maybe understanding. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared. You already are, Emma, he said, his voice low and steady. You've always been. You just didn't realize it. She wanted to scream, to run, but the words wouldn't come. She was stuck between fear and longing, between the life she knew and the life that Victor was offering her. She didn't know what to do, but she knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. Emma stood there, the weight of Victor's words sinking deeper into her heart. She had never felt so helpless, so drawn into something she didn't fully understand. He was right, though. She had already crossed a line. There was no going back. No matter how much she tried to resist, no matter how much she wanted to walk away, a part of her knew she couldn't. She wasn't just a bystander in this world anymore. She was part of it. And the truth was, a part of her didn't want to escape. As much as she told herself she should run, she couldn't ignore the feelings that had grown inside her. She looked at Victor, standing just a few feet away, his presence so overwhelming, so consuming. He had a power over her, something that both terrified and intrigued her. She could feel his gaze on her, steady and unwavering. Victor, she whispered, her voice trembling. What if I can't do this? What if I can't be a part of your world? His eyes softened, and for a brief moment, Emma saw something in them, something that almost made her believe he cared for her. You already are, Emma. You always have been, he said, his voice low and calming. You don't have to be afraid. I won't let anything happen to you. Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to let herself trust him, but the fear still lingered in the back of her mind. The fear of what this world could do to her. I don't know if I can do this, Victor, she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. I don't know if I can live this life. He reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands, his touch warm and reassuring. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, Emma. But know this, you belong here. With me. The words were simple, but they carried so much weight. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, allowing herself to feel the truth in his words. Was she ready to accept this life, to be a part of Victor's world, to be his? She wasn't sure, but she knew that no matter